Hey everybody, what's going on? I want to make a video to share with you guys the solo self-found hardcore character that I got in Dawn of the Hunt. It is the first time I've ever made a hardcore SSF character, and I learned quite a bit with what I think is going to be the best leveling experience you're going to have in the game. So this will be a little bit less edited and more just free-flowing conversation so I can get you up to speed with what's going on and maybe encourage you to try it. I know hardcore isn't for everybody, and I know solo self-found also isn't, but for me, it's been a really good challenge, and I've been just absolutely loving the game. Like, I've been loving the game so much going hardcore because it's very risky, and then SSF kind of makes it even more fun and addicting because you log in a little bit, get some blasting going on, maybe the item drops that makes your character better. Who knows, right? Maybe you hit some crazy exalts and you can start to make your gear insane. It's just been really, really fun. And so with that, the decision was I wanted to make a Ascendency and a character that I hadn't had before. And so with the Dawn of the Hunt, I've got the Smith of Kitava. So Smith of Kitava is our Ascension. It's the base class of warrior ascending into Smith of Kitava that we're enjoying it. But let's go through a couple key points in the video today. So we're going to be talking about, I got a bit of a list here we're going to reference. I want to talk about the skill tree. I want to talk about skill gems supports. I want to talk about items and stats that we're looking for this version of the build. And then animation canceling so you can get some more movement speed, maybe even do some more damage in content so you can kind of clear it safely in hardcore. So first things first, we talked about skill tree, and everything in here will be available in the description for you guys. So let me open up the skill tree. So when we start off, we'll talk about the Ascension after. When we start off, we are going to be a Stomping Ground build. So understand that we're going to be using certain skills as the vehicle to do the damage of Stomping Ground support. That's kind of like the whole plan here. So what we want to do to increase Stomping Ground support damage is choose a bunch of strength, essentially all strength, and we add some sizzle after that, but strength is our primary go-to. So because of that, we're going to start off here with melee damage as our first node, and then we're going to navigate all the way through, choosing strength basically on every node all the way through. We're going to grab brutal first, we're going to navigate all the way down here, connect in, and the next thing we're going to grab is beef. So you grab beef, so 25 strength is awesome. Remember that every point of strength is going to give you 2 HP, so getting strength increases your damage and keeps you alive. It's like the perfect combination for hardcore. Once you've got beef here, you can navigate all the way down the tree, and you're going to grab brute strength. Once you got brute strength, I'd recommend putting 1.8 strength here and then all the way into blade catcher. So you defend with 200% of your armor against critical hits, which is kind of amazing because crits are like double damage for monsters unless there's additional modifiers. So for you to reduce the amount that a critical hit could do to you in hardcore could be the reason you survive an attack and not subsequently fall back to the riverbank. So blade catcher feels really, really good. Totally recommend grabbing that. So now you got blade catcher, and then you navigate all the way down until you get into polymathy. So navigate down here, and I'm only going to take the left side of the tree. Polymathy gives you 7% increased attributes, and attributes are things like intelligence, strength again, and dexterity. This build is hungry for dexterity, so getting dexterity in your SSF experience is kind of nice. You don't have to slot for it if you have items that allow you to get dexterity. My rolls haven't been that good yet, so I actually had to invest in some dexterity at this point. And I should tell you that, like a little pause here, at this stage in the game, I just reached maps. So I just cleared the game. My character is currently level 66. I've got 581 strength, 87 dexterity, and 20 intelligence so far. And the stats that I have with resistances and stuff, that comes from the gear, which we'll talk about after this section. So you've got polymathy, things are looking good for you. You're going to go ahead and grab all the extra 8 strength nodes because they're just too damn good. And then the next thing you can do is you can navigate up the tree here. So because you branch off, we're going to go over up and above into this skill cluster. So it's called Battle Fever. So you are going to get increased attack speed and cast speed, but we don't care so much cast speed, only attack speed, and increased physical damage. Once you've got that, you're going to navigate down into area damage and then impact force. And I want to talk about something that I've been catching some people off guard with when I'm live streaming, and I want to share that information with you. So the reason that we took this path on the upper, instead of going the natural connection, looks like would be here to save a couple points and connect into attack area. Inside Path of Exile 2, if you ever mouse over a node and you press shift on your keyboard, shift is going to show you what that node does for the attacks that you have. Will it increase damage or do nothing? So as an example, you can see that strength is going to increase my spear stab, my spear throw, my initial strike, and also shockwave, which is what Stomping Ground support is. It's the shockwave from your feet. And so every point of strength does increase that, which is awesome. But the reason that that is important for you is you might think that something like attack area, right? 8% increased area of effect for attacks would work for you because Stomping Ground is AoE, but it actually doesn't. If I press shift, there's no skills that would be affected that I have by that. But interestingly enough, if I read this one, which is increased attack area damage, and I press shift, you can see that shockwave is going to go up by about 170 or so, which is pretty awesome. So because we found that out, holding shift was like kind of like the cheat code. It made more sense and it was obvious to go this way to save some points. Now, that's what we've done. Just so you're aware of that, okay? So once you've got Battle Fever and then you've grabbed Impact Force, you can make a choice. I would recommend you go down the tree here to start grabbing some stuff like Cruel Methods. You break 40% increased armor. So you're breaking armor often, kind of staggering the bosses, doing good damage windows, especially in hardcore. And then after that, I grabbed Lay Siege. So what you're going to do is you're going to increase your block chance. This is the increased block chance of the shield. And then you can press C to find it. I'll kind of get out of the way here. I'm in the way. But if you press C to open up your character panel, you can scroll down here to see block and block chance will be listed here for you. 75% is the block chance maximum. I'm currently at 31%, but we're going to take the right side here to increase that block value of our buckler, our shield, by 10%, and then we grab Lay Siege. So we're going to do 1% increased damage per 1% chance to block. So you want to get a nice block percent on your shield, okay? Or your buckler, whatever you're going to use. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the animation canceling portion of this video for you. Excuse me. So we have all this stuff, and then don't worry about this, we get there later on. So we navigate over here, and then I grab the following. So after I had Lay Siege and I had Cruel Methods, the next thing that I grabbed is I went up here and I grabbed Titanic. So you have 30% increased stun buildup, which is allowing you to like basically deal with bosses that have a high HP pool faster. And then you have 5% more strength. And that's pretty huge because remember that we do have brute strength. So we have 1% increased damage per 15 strength, which is why it's so important that we're getting as much strength as we can. And I wouldn't say that I even have a lot at 581. I'd like that to be, you know, 40,000 if I could. I don't even know if that's not a reasonable number, but the higher the better. So you have Titanic. Life is good so far. After that, I would recommend doing the following. So then you're going to take Feral Force, and then you're going to take Bestial Rage. And if you hold shift, you are going to see that attack damage does scale up your shockwave. And so 10% across the board, and they get 25 for these two, which happens to be a little bit earlier than where we're going next, which is this Claw Cluster, which would be Swift Claw, giving you 25, 25, 25. So I think it's 155% increased attack damage in this cluster, which is a lot for us. So far so good. We're just hitting maps. I did a tier 1 map, and the build still feels fine. Like we're killing rares. It's not an issue at all. And I'll try to incorporate some of that gameplay footage at some point in this video. And hopefully I don't rip taking that content for you, just so you know, like, you can see that it works based off all the stuff I'm telling you. There is a conversation to be had about maybe grabbing offensive stance, which again kind of acts like Lay Siege, where you do more damage with chance to block, and you'd kind of get encouraged to do that. But you do lose 25% of all your global defenses. It might be worth the cost. A lot of people feel like it. I'm not going to take this yet. I'm first going to increase all of my damage and then make that decision subsequently after I know how the build feels with that damage. Okay? So you've got all these nodes so far. That's kind of where I'm going after I've taken this. And like I mentioned earlier, it depends on how much dexterity you have on your gear. But for me, I needed dexterity so that I could do certain things. I could tame companions, which I haven't even done yet, but I hear it's really good. I wanted to make sure that I had at least 72 dexterity, and the weapon that I'm using required a little bit more because that's just what it is. We'll talk about that in the item section. But I wanted to grab Blurred Motion because it gave me 5% increased dexterity and then increased attack speed. So this is what I did. So I grabbed Blurred Motion, I've got all the dexterity that I need, and now I'm just taking care of business, TCB, all the way up into the claw nodes, okay? And that's the build so far. And again, available in the description for you. That's where I'm at in my Hardcore SSF adventure on the skill tree, and that's how I would path it out. Now, when I ascended, the first thing that I grabbed is I grabbed Smith's Masterwork. You could take Coal Stoker, we get that after, but you could take that first, I did not. With Smith's Masterwork, you only care about normal gear, like normal white chest. Doesn't have to be magical, doesn't have to be rare. It says can only use normal body armor, and then this passive skill is free to allocate. So you grab it, and then you can choose any of these nodes on the Smith of Kitava that sound like they're good for you. And there's a couple ones that stand out to me immediately. The first one was Support Straps. Body armor grants me 20% increased strength. And remember that the more strength we have, the more damage you deal with Stomping Ground. We're going to talk about that in the skill section, but also you just get more life. So right now, you can't really see it. It's not immediately obvious, but bottom right-hand side there, you're going to see that I got 2,776 HP, and that's pretty damn good for tier 1 mapping. Like, you can take some hits here. Armor is also kind of nice. So let's move along. So strength, fantastic. The next choice I took was leather bindings. Now, I wasn't immediately going to grab this one, but I'm so glad that I did. So body armor grants regenerate 5% of max life per second. So this is what allows you to take a hit, and then your HP pool just kind of starts going right back up, and it feels really, really nice. It gives you that tanky feeling, like you can stand in Ignition, Ignited Ground, you can stand in Poison, and you don't really feel too bad about it. Even going up against the Viper, you can stand in her Poison, and your health isn't really moving because you're regenerating a decent amount of health. And the more health you have, the more you're regenerating per second, which is pretty cool. And we support that later on in the skills and supports. So the first thing, your first ascension, Trial of Sekimas, support straps, leather bindings, get a white chest, and away we go. And I'll show you some stuff you can do with that, which is pretty cool. The second one, after you do your Trial of Chaos, I'd recommend you get Coal Stoker. So on the way in, you get 15% fire res, but then the modifier here is so amazing. So all you really have to do with this build is look for fire resistance and chaos resistance. Fire resistance, all the amount that you have, 50% of that value will go into lightning and cold for you, which makes itemization so simple. All you have to do is get a white chest with high armor or whatever you're going to do, whatever your base is going to be, energy shield, evasion, whatever. You grab that and then you grab this resistance. It doesn't seem insane, but this character is like very easy to gear, and this build is kind of a joke to put together for what it gives you. In SSF, like, you need to make something happen. You need to make something happen on the cheap, and I swear to God, this is such a slapping choice. It's been feeling so comfortable and easy to play. So let's talk about, I think the next thing after you understand the skill tree, the next one I want to talk about is probably items. Let's talk about the items in the build. So I'm not doing trade, okay? I'm doing SSF, solo self-found. I can't be given gear. Everything you see here, I've accumulated after beating the campaign and doing one tier 1 map. So first of all, the weapon, I'm using a spear, I'm not using maces, and that's because I'm using the Rake skill. So Rake is the skill that I'm using, and I'm supporting it with Stomping Ground and other things which we're going to discuss. When it comes to your weapon, you could quite literally use a complete dog shit weapon like this at level 10. The only thing I need you to care about is the increased attack speed modifier on that weapon. And there's other things you can get, like increased strength and dexterity or reduced attribute requirements. That would be nice too, so you can have like later gear with a lower requirement of dexterity, which would be a lot better, so you could support more strength in the skill tree, subsequently increasing your damage and your HP. Be amazing. But all you're looking for, generally speaking, is attack speed. If you can get that, that's great for you. It's just less frames to get your attacks out. The next thing is rings. Again, you're looking for life, chaos res, fire res. Have a nice time. That's all you're looking for. That's it. That's all we need. Next ring, same deal. It's an iron ring. Again, if it's a ruby ring, dual ruby ring would be amazing, or dual amethyst ring with high fire res would be cool. Now, this is the body armor. So I've got superior rugged. At the moment, it is white. It's normal, like it's supposed to be. But you'll see there's some cool stuff going on. You can still affect this armor with quality, which is what I've done. And also, you could val it. You could corrupt it and maybe get an additional socket, which I was lucky to do. So I used the val mechanism in the campaign both times, and I got a third socket. So super lucky guy, streamer, client engaged, right? But you can do that. And then you can always change the runes up even if it's corrupted, so that's nice. You can go 8 strength or however much strength you can get, or even increase the defensive properties of that white chest if that's something that you want to do. As for my helmet, same kind of thing. We're only looking for strength, vitality, strength, health, and then fire res or chaos res. That's pretty much all we need. Everything else is a bonus. And when you're doing hardcore SSF, start to plan your character around only having 4 modifiers, like use an alchemy orb on a piece of gear. That's probably what you're going to do. Finding exalts is going to be kind of tricky, and currency matters and how you use it really matters. So I want to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. As for an amulet, I've got a bloodstone amulet. I'd rather have like an amber one or like something with more spirit, just so I have some more options when it comes to how I want to support the character. But this is kind of what I found. So spirit's not the worst thing in the world. And as you could probably imagine, we're looking for life, fire resistance, chaos resistance. That's pretty much it. We don't need plus to melee skills because that's going to increase the cost of Rake, which I'll show you how that affects us when we get into the animation canceling portion of this video, this overview. As for the shield, now this is the talking point. So we're kind of getting into animation canceling. I'll leave this one to the very end, but this matters a lot, and you'll see why. It might keep you alive, might get you killed, but it's what I've got so far. It's what I found. Dexterity isn't the worst. Like, we're kind of like a stat stacker, so strength and dexterity is nice because dexterity allows us to use higher tier weapons. Subsequently, doing maps, we might find higher ranges of attack speed, which would be kind of nice for our build. But outside of that, at the moment, the way it's built, this is okay. Life, dex, fire res, give me some strength, call it a day. Chaos res, fantastic. Gloves, same deal. Life, strength, dex. Attack speed would be kind of nice if I could get that. That'd be huge. Didn't hit it. Is what it is. Putting in fire res. Belt, same thing. Chaos res, fire res, strength, life, go. That's all we're doing. More charm slots, that'd be amazing. That's what we're looking for. As for the boots, typical customer looking for movement speed. Same thing. Strength, fire res, chaos res, and life. If we can get that, that's good. You don't actually need movement speed, but I'd recommend it for bossing, but you don't need it, and you'll see why in animation canceling when you get comfortable with it. I think that's all the pieces, right? Went through everything? Okay, perfect. Then we have some flasks. Flasks can be whatever you need. Haven't really seen a need for anything crazy. I'd recommend getting the best flask that regenerates as much HP as possible. That's just not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So let's talk about, I guess we'll go into animation canceling, then skills. Okay? So Animation canceling. What I'm doing is we're attacking with Rake, okay? So when you watch the gameplay, Rake. I hold down right click, I'm raking. I'm just doing Rake, okay? My guy does this kind of swipe, and it's kind of amazing. Not bad. So what we're doing, though, is I can press parry, and I can start to cancel that animation cycle. And so I can start to slide around the screen pretty ridiculously, right? Like, I can just do that. I can just keep flying around the screen, and that's called animation canceling. Now, I'm using parry, and if I decide not to use parry, we're going to do some gear swapping here. If I decide not to use parry, and I toss on a regular Spear of Ease at level 10, and I put on a regular shield, instead of using parry, I put it on Q, that's what I'm using. I can now use shield, like Raise Shield instead. But watch the clunkiness. There's kind of like this sticky thing happening. My character's almost kind of stuck in the mud. Like, it frame locks him a little bit. Like, he's not moving. I'm canceling it correctly, but my character's just kind of slow. Not what I like at all. And because of you guys in the community and our live streams and collaborating on this build from the ground up, you guys kind of informed me of this thing called Resonating Shield. So you're supposed to slam the shield with Resonating Shield. I'm actually going to socket that right now and show you what happens. So as long as you have a shield, not a buckler, but a shield, you can see here, I'm going to switch Raise Shield into Resonating Shield. I'm going to hold Resonating Shield. So your guy kind of slams the shield, right? It kind of does like that war, huge slam. But what we're going to do is we're going to use that animation to cancel our Rake animation. So it's cancel on cancel, like it's completely ridiculous. So here's what you do. It feels exactly like a buckler. So here we go. Feels just like I'm using parry. But the difference is, the huge difference here with animation canceling and Resonating Shield is, I actually get armor and an increased chance to block. If you evaluate the two items, like my block chance on this is 28, and my block chance on this shield is 39 plus armor. So it would be more interesting for me if I wasn't using Iron Reflexes to just go for a shield. And if you want to play this version, you certainly can. It's something you can do. Now, I'm using the buckler because the stats on it are just too damn juicy, and if I could find a better shield, I immediately would, but I'm not quite there yet. But I would recommend you take that, you do this setup. I think it's right. Resonating Shield here, that's the skill you're going to use with the shield. Get in there early. I think it's a level 9 skill gem, so you have to have access to level 9 skill gem for that tech first. If not, you can always just parry until you get there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to replace some gear here again, get this back set up. And okay, perfect. So basic attack speed on the weapon, life is good. If you see, I'm going to talk about this quickly, on your weapon, just should have had this done first, but if you have physical damage increase, it's not going to help your Stomping Ground. It's local. It only cares about what the weapon does, not what Stomping Ground does for you. And the way Stomping Ground's worded, we'll explain that in a second. So here we go. Here we go. Skill gems, okay? When you start this off, the first thing you're going to do, if you're going to go like the way that I recommend it, is you're going to start off with Disengage. So Disengage is what you're going to grab, and then the moment you can get access to Stomping Ground, grab that. So you're going to have Disengage, Stomping Ground, then like Martial Tempo. These are the ways you're going to support your travel skills with Stomping Ground. And the moment you get level 6, I believe, that's when you're going to grab Rake at level 1 and never level it up again. Then you're going to maps. And you're still going to use Stomping Ground, and you're still going to use Martial Tempo, and that's going to carry you quite a bit. Now, you're going to see that we expand on that as we level. That's just natural progression of a character in the game. But let me get out of the way a little bit and start to talk about skill gems and what the hell's going on. So all we have to do is use Rake with Stomping Ground, and I'm now at this point, when I'm in mapping, I'm supporting Rake, Stomping Ground with Lacerate, Brutality, and Splinter. And so let's talk about Stomping Ground for a second here, because it's pretty damn important. So let's pin this, put a pin in it, and let's talk about it. Oh my God, how many buttons can this guy click? So Stomping Ground, okay? Travel skills, supports travel skills causing my footsteps. It's my footsteps to crack the earth and emit damaging shockwaves while using the skill. So you'll notice here, right, when we're doing our Rake, do you see that little clear circle? That is where all my damage is. So it's kind of like an inversion, right? My damage is Stomping Ground, and my vehicle or my support is Rake. And you can use any travel skill to do that, which is why Disengaged worked in the beginning when we first started. But Rake just is the move. Rake has been very, very clean. I haven't even need to change it at all. People are telling me the damage falls off in Act 3 Cruel, and I guess that maybe comes more down to the gear that you have. And if you're able to hit the supports in SSF, I didn't really feel that too bad. Bossing was fine. HP pool felt okay. There was some risky business. That monkey's bad news, but back into Stomping Ground, okay? So Shockwave. Shockwave deals 100% to 150% of the strength you have as physical damage in a radius of 2 meters. That's the reason. That's the creme de la creme, the piece de la resistance. This is why you're going for so much strength. Every decision you make that isn't strength, that better be worth it, or else you might as well just go all in, because all of our strength is going to be dealt as physical. That's what the deal is. And so we're supporting that with Lacerate. And you might be thinking Lacerate on Rake makes no sense because Rake inflicts bleeding on hit anyway. And that might be true. But the problem is, unless you have Lacerate supporting Stomping Ground doesn't get to bleed. So you would use Lacerate in the setup to make your Stomping Ground bleed. Now, if you want a little bit more quality of life, you can go for Martial Tempo instead of Lacerate and get away from this whole build from bleeding, and you can, that's fine. I'm not doing that. The bleed's kind of nice. The bleed allows you to use other options, like as an example, if I put parry over here again, you can start to use things like Blood Hunt. So once the opponent has overwhelming blood, I can just go like this and like basically one-shot the guy. That's a joke. And that's kind of what we're going to do when we start to scale up into bleed magnitude. I think is the way that we're going to go ultimately with this guy. Hard to say right now. But that's the main setup. If you're struggling on single target damage, you could try Spear Field with Envenom and Corrosion. That seems to be okay. Herald of Blood is one of my supports. And I know I'm kind of in the way here, sorry. It's just how it is. Herald of Blood with Execute, so we do more damage, 50% more damage with hits against enemies on low life. And the hits are going to be the Hemo Crystals. So Hemo Crystals come in a second and a half after something dies from blood loss and then explodes, which is fantastic. And we're increasing that AoE by basically 30% more with magnified effect. Overwhelming Presence has been great. So it allows us to stagger, and essentially tells you right here what it does. But enemies in your presence have 21% reduced elemental ailment threshold, and enemies in your presence have 22% reduced stun threshold. So we just stun pretty much the screen almost instantaneously with that ground stomp, and we just keep going, right? And we just keep blowing things away as they're stunned and they die, they explode and they're bleeding, and that kind of repeats the process. It's really feels really good for hardcore. And we're going to be supporting that with Vitality and Cannibalism. Because I have the necklace, it allows me to do that. Just keeps me feeling a little bit more tanky through things like Utzwal, Agharat. It felt really comfortable. Herald of Ash, you could use this instead. It's totally dealer's choice. I think that where I'm at in the build right now, I'm using Herald of Blood, but I could see the conversation, and if I was doing Herald of Ash, I would just put Magnified Effect on it. Blood Hunt at the moment, we're just using it to finish off big health targets. We're going to be using Inevitable Critical, Close Combat, and Bloodlust. It's pretty known technology, and it's kind of working for me. Time of Need, really nice. 10 seconds, every 10 seconds, I'm going to heal some. It's going to recover 301 life. I'm kind of in the way. 301 life and removes curses and elemental ailments. So if shit's hitting the fan and I'm kind of like bogged down, every 10 seconds, I kind of get to cleanse my character in a fresh way, which feels really nice. And I'm going to show you too, my current health. I'm currently recovering per second 184.8% life, which is nice. And I'd like to get that number up because, like I said, when you take a hit, you subsequently heal it back up, which is really awesome. And I think that's about all of it. Yeah, we don't really care about Spear Stab, Spear Throw. Disengage, I've got Heft and Martial Tempo. I'm just using this sometimes as an oh shit button. Like, I'm sliding around like this, life is good, and bam, bad situation, disengage out and get out. Hardcore, you got to stay alive, got to be reactive. So that's pretty much the setup so far. And again, there's not too much after that. The build link will be in the description. I just wanted to have like a pretty free-flowing conversation with you about the Hardcore SSF Smith of Kitava and where I'm at with it so far. You can go from the beginning using just Rake and Stomping Ground, get comfortable with animation canceling all the way to maps. I've been streaming it all week on Twitch, YouTube, and X. And man, some of you guys got involved in that challenge too, and that's just so wonderful to see. Catch you on the next one. Adios, guys.